Hi, I'm Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and behind me is my next quilting project. It's a double wedding ring, and this one is not a vintage top. This is made with some older fabrics, but there are some current fabrics in there too, or some more modern fabrics, I should say. I do recognize a couple of 1930 fabrics. I also recognize some fabrics that I've used myself back in the 1980s and the 1990s. So this is a mix. It is hand-pieced and it is in fairly good shape. There are a couple of pieces that I'm going to do some reinforcing on, some stitching to kind of firm them up. And there are a few places that have a little bit of fullness in them, but not too bad. I think this will be actually pretty easy to get on the machine and quilt it and have it still be fairly square when I get done. So I don't think this is going to be one of those I'm going to have to rework. What I'm going to do next is to take this down off of my design wall, and I'm going to put it on my ironing board and then put some plastic over top, some tablecloth plastic, and get my dry erase markers, and I'll show you some ideas that I have for quilting a double wedding ring. Now, I've done several double wedding rings in my career. I have one here at the house, and I'll show you some of the details of that quilt. That one is a vintage top, and I will show you how I quilted that one. So hope you stay tuned, and I'll show you some ideas for quilting a double wedding ring. Here's a close-up of the double wedding ring quilt that I completed a couple years ago. This is a vintage top, and I bought this at a booth at our local quilt guild show several years ago. So I took this home, and it came with the fabric for the binding, and I put on a muslin backing, and then I went and quilted it. Now what I did was I did a feather motif within this part of the quilt, as well as in the ovals here, in these I'm not sure what shape these are, these ovals here, and it's very heavily quilted in here and in here. But on the rings, what I did is I just did an outline stitch on both sides, which probably was not enough quilting. It really needed some more. But once I got done with it, I didn't put it back on the machine and fix it. I just left it the way it was. And you can see in the back a little bit. This is a quilt that we use a lot. I keep it draped over one of the chairs in our living room, and you know, we snuggle up under it when we're cold and that kind of thing. But this is kind of a prime example of when you do a heavy quilting in one area of the quilt, light quilting somewhere else. It's obvious, and it doesn't look right. And one of these days I may put this back on the machine and do some more quilting in here. But at the moment it's done, and done is better than perfect. So here we go. So anyway, this feather started in the center, and it went out into each corner, and then we have the plumes that go out like this. So that's what I did on this quilt. Now on other customer quilts, I've done other things, and usually because they didn't want this much quilting in their quilts. Okay, if you just want kind of minimal quilting, you don't want anything real dense in here, one thing you could do would be the crossed canoes, and make them big enough to kind of fill your space. And then you've got this big opening here, and you can put anything in there you want. You could put a flower, you could put a feather, you could, just anything you can think of can go in there. And for these spaces, you could just echo them if you want. The way I'm drawing them would mean you'd have to stop and start. If you don't want to stop and start, you know, you can always connect that like this. You can connect them and go around like this. And do this circle first, and then backtrack along here and do each one of these like this. So there are ways that you could do this and not have to break thread. Okay, if you want to do something a little more formal, you could do feathers. There's all different ways you could do that. You could do a feather wreath, you could do feathers that will fill in, and if you want to do that, let's do a center here, I'll make that a little bit bigger. Use your templates if you've got them. This would be like a 3 or 4 inch template here, and we just go around and do our feathers and try and reach all the way into that corner if you can, and then come around. Now, I've only been back from vacation about a week, and I have not done any quilting yet, so I am feeling very rusty. So then we'd come in and do the inside. And my drawing is not the best either, but that's all right. So you could do that. Another thing you could do, if you can find this, these points should be the center, the way this is pieced, and I'm going to assume, which is never a good thing, I'm going to assume that this is pieced well, and actually that looks pretty good. Now I want to do a feather in the corners, but I want to do something different here. We're going to have a center spine. This is kind of my guideline here. My feathers are going to come like this. And I'll come down and do the next side. And then I'll do a final purl in here, like that. And then we could do that on all the sides here. So let me do this one here, like that. So here we have the 4 corners, and then you could do something different in here. You could do a feather that fills this whole place up. You may want to do a little, give yourself a little relief here, a 1/4 inch relief, to kind of separate this design from there, and then do your design. One thing that I would probably do would be crosshatch in here. I think that would look nice. Do maybe a 1/2 inch crosshatch. But you could do a feather wreath, you could do a squared off feather, you could do a Greek key, you could do all different kinds of designs in there. But this would be kind of dense quilting, and then you want to match that, this type of quilting everywhere else. So I don't do a whole lot of fancy stuff in the rings because they're usually different colors and they're different patterns, and heavy quilting kind of just gets lost in there. Something like a feather that is time consuming, I don't tend to do because of that. But you could do several lines of straight quilting or arced quilting, or you could just do the continuous curve. And something like this, and just go all the way around. Or you could do just the 1/4 inch outline stitch like this. And then when you come back, do the outline like this, and that will make it a little bit denser. So that would balance fairly well with this. It'd be a little more open, but it would balance this quilting off. So I think that would give you a good overall look. Now if you did feathers in your main piece here, and you wanted to do feathers in your oval pieces, you could do a feather with a spine. Let me do this one. I've got the, let's see if I can pull this down. There we go. This would mark your center right here, and we could start and do a center here and then do our feathers out. So you can do, you know, have your spine come out here, and then come down and do your other side. Like this. So that would be another dense design. Or you could just do a one-sided feather, and you could just start and just decide which side you want your feathers to point to, and just fill those in like that. And then you have a nice feather design in there. Okay, what if you want to do hearts? Once again, I'm going to make myself some guidelines, and I'm going to mark this off. I'm going to do the hearts in here, and you've got this bottom part of your heart shape here, so I would do that. And if you want to throw in a little, like a teardrop right there, and do that with all your corners. So that one, it really kind of requires you to start in the center to get that teardrop in. There we go. And then if you want to do in the center, you can connect these. So let's connect them. Let's start over. Do the heart with the teardrop, and now we want to connect to the next one, so we're just going to go in like this, connect the next, do another one. We're going right to the center of that top part of the heart. And then we'll connect these two. So then these registration marks won't be there. Get rid of those. And that's what you have at this point. Now what you can do, is, because we stopped here, we can come in and we can echo, and then we could cross hatch. There you go. You have a design like that. Now for your oval pieces, you could do your heart, kind of do the same thing. Do your little teardrop, and then just come on over and connect that here. And then you have like a double heart in there. Another thing you could do would be kind of mimic this curve here. So if you've got a curved ruler, see if you've got one that will match that curve fairly well, and then just draw it in, quilt it in, and then kind of use this as a guideline to put maybe feathers in here. So let's do a one-sided feather and use this as your spine. And I would probably stop here and then start again and use this side as the spine for this feather, and just follow along here as the spine at this end. So you've got kind of a base to put your feathers. And start again over here. go. So they're all kind of going the same direction, but you kind of have a starting and an ending point on each one. And then I would go ahead and give myself a 1/4 inch relief space there. It kind of is a transition point from one design to the other, and then you could put something else in here. And if you want to do your feather, you can also do that. And that would look something like this. And there you have a nice design. That looks nice, it looks elegant, and you can do it freehand. Now if you want something a little more modern instead of traditional, you could do something like this. We're just going to divide it into quarters. And now you can just follow your lines here. We're going to kind of alternate this from one section to the other, like this. And so we just have straight line quilting. I'm trying to get this about a 1/2 inch apart. It's a little bit wider in places. But we're going to alternate it from one section to the other to kind of give the design some motion, some movement. And then there you have that design. And then on these sections you could do the same thing. You could just do it one-sided like that. And there you have a nice modern design. That doesn't take too long. You use your rulers, which would slow you down a little bit, but it wouldn't be too bad. And another thing you could do if you do this outline, anything that you put in like a border or a sashing, like if you want to do the ribbon candy, you could do that. You could just put loops in here if you wanted. Just make some big loops that kind of touch. I'm just going to try and keep touching the previous loop. Make them nice and fat. Oops. My pen is running out of ink. And there you go. And then you could do something different in here, like do a Greek key. Like that. And there you have it. For your rings, like I said, I don't do anything real fancy in the rings, but you could do your feathers in there. These spaces here where you have the 4 rings coming together, you could do something special in there. You don't have to do continuous curve. You could do like you could do a heart in each one of these if you're doing that heart design. Something like that. You could do continuous curve. You could do, there you go. You know, just anything that you can think of that you would do like in a square. So I hope this gave you some ideas on things that you could do for a double wedding ring quilt, and I hope to see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my newest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.